Jarvis, drop my needle.
Hello, this is the hardcore legend Mick Foley, and if you are interested in listening to idiots, you came to the right place. Have a nice day.
Woo! That's an attention getter.
He's a very strange young man.
He's an idiot.
What we're dealing with here is a complete lack of respect for the law.
Oh my God, he's an idiot.
You know, of course, that you're out of your jurisdiction.
Personally, I think you're an idiot.
But that's the evidence in the car.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Always like to keep my audience riveted.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, friends and fiends, and welcome to Free Range Idiocy, the podcast about everything, but mostly just the stuff we like. Well, folks, here we are at the final week of Ted Lasso. Until the beginning of August when we get season 4. But in the meantime, we're digging into the final season of what will probably wind up being referred to as the original trilogy or something like his name. At any rate, as Trent Crimm would say, this is the culmination of all the moments and lessons learned from Ted's time at AFC Richmond. Will the Greyhounds win the whole effing thing? Will everyone find true happiness? Will Roy embrace his emotions? Will we just be openly weeping by the end of this episode? Find out in this episode 256, The Road to Redemption. I am your Uncle Todd, and with me, as always, the man who is just one foolish venture capitalist on a 3-week bender away from opening his own meme market. He has been my partner in Idiocy for over 2 decades and will more than likely eat the majority of his profits. I give you the man they call Tim.
I will eat deviled eggs. I will eat New York strip. I will eat cheesecake.
Man, that's the thing. You don't get high on your own supply. Didn't you learn that from Afro Man? Da 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 da. So tying back to
when I got high,
when there's, I think it's the, I was going to pay my child support, but then I got high, and you hear some. It's probably like him because it's all like him layered in. He's like, no, you weren't, and you just hear him go, yeah. I die every time I hear that part because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so wonderful. I need to have either an Afro Man or a Weird Al Yankovic song.
Yeah,
where they guest.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who's the primary artist. I just want the other to guest on the song. Like I really want like Weird Al to guest on a song with Afro Man where he's talking, where like Afro Man is talking about getting high and Al is talking about something completely different, and yet it matches up. But Al is still just like completely oblivious to the fact that Afro Man is talking about getting stoned out of his gourd. That would be almost like if you could talk about like getting stoned and Al is singing about geology. Like, I need that in my life. Somebody get a hold of, Patrick isn't here. I'd have him get a hold of Afro Man's people.
There you go.
I'll have to send him an email. We'll see how that goes.
So did you watch season 3 to its completion?
I did not. This week turned into very much of a frack fest for me, where just things kind of went sideways, and I did not have a chance to watch nearly as much Ted Lasso as possible. I kind of got halfway through the season, and then I just before we started recording,
it's hard.
I did some quick hits.
Yeah.
But that is about it. Did you complete?
I did.
Season 3?
Finished it today. Before we recorded, I was on a business trip down to Dallas last week, so my evenings were pretty much coming back and just crashing in bed and watching probably 1 or 2 episodes. But it is without that, I think it would have been a challenge because unlike season 1, this is not 30-minute episodes. Like, it turned into like every episode was like 45 to 60 freaking minutes, if not more.
Even season 2 is very much, even though they're not like half hour.
It's kind of on the edge. I agree with you, but it's kind of on the edge.
Minutes.
3 goes like crazy into like 60 to 75 minutes. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. And that was one of the first things that I kind of have on the outline here, because it feels like fans love season 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've spoken to a couple people who just kind of dropped off in season 3, and it seems like fans were kind of down on season 3.
So can I give an opinion on why that is?
Go right ahead.
And it actually links back to a series you have not watched, which is Silicon Valley. So one of my gripes, so I love the show Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm.
One of my gripes with it, though, that I had in the later seasons is I feel like that show was a 3 to 4 season show.
Mm-hmm.
I recently did a rewatch of it that went all the way to 6, I think maybe 7 seasons. And I'm kind of sitting there when I get to season 5, like, what the hell are we doing? Like, you have to make these characters so effing stupid to continue the plots and the story arcs that they're going on. You know, these are supposed to be brilliant programmers, brilliant minds, and they can't make basic frickin' business decisions. And I can understand that to a point, but not to the point they took it to. And I feel like season 3 of Ted Lasso kind of goes down that road where this whole thing with Zava, this whole thing with the team is just it's filler. They're trying to get to 10 to 12 episodes. They have to have a story arc to get there. They choose this goofy thing with him. There's this whole thing with Jack and Keely. I feel like there's filler in here that is completely unnecessary and takes the show off track. And once they come out of it, once they come out of the Zava arc, and once they come out of the Jack arc, then it finds its focus and its rhythm again, and it's solid. It's solid to the end. But the early part of this season is just, when I was watching it, I'm like, first time I watched it, and even now on my 4th time watching it, the Zava stuff drives me insane. It is completely against the instincts of every character in the show to be okay with this. Okay. And Jamie Tart is the only one amongst them, which is hysterical because he's the idiot. And he's the one who's like, what the hell are we doing, guys? I'm like, yes, amen. Preach on, brother.
My defense of the Zava bit, and then getting into the rest of it, I think it's it is actually very relatable, because I think every single sports fan has had a moment with their favorite team that they have either talked themselves into,
sure,
or just been frustrated to the point of wanting to jump off a bridge by a move that their team is making for an uber talented player.
Yeah.
That you're like, this is, if you can see it coming, you're like, this is going to end in tears. Please don't do this. Like,
yep.
Oh my gosh. Like I forget, who was the guy the Red Sox signed back in like the 90s? And he was one of those guys, like, he's a 5-tool player. He's amazing. I can't believe we got this guy. And it's like, yeah, he's played for 4 teams in 5 years. If you're a 5-tool franchise player, you don't play for 4 teams in 5 years unless you've got the Nuke LaLoosh 10-cent head, you know? And gosh, I can't remember. Oh, it was Carl Everett.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Remember that? Yahoo?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
I do. And I think every team's history is littered with at least 1 or 2 moves like that, where some fans just talk themselves into, like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be great. He's gonna take us to the promised land. It's gonna work this time. I think they were trying to like incorporate a little bit of that into this and show like, well, this, because they had not had a truly star player at their prime.
Now, the way that I rationalize it is that the start of the season is Ted and the team do not believe in themselves. But when you get, watching 3 seasons in 3 weeks the way that we have, the thing that stands out to me, especially now in that sort of setting, is at the end of season 2, the team is remarkably strong. Sam has established himself as a star. Jamie has integrated himself into the team again, and everyone trusts each other.
Okay.
To come into season 3 and be like, okay, everyone's rating us low, we suck, we need this player, it just feels very forced.
Can I make the logistical please justification for that? Is
please do.
They just got promoted back to the Premier League, and they barely made it. Like, they made a rush at the end of season 2 to get there. Like, if you're just getting across the line to be promoted back into that league, of course you're going to be at the bottom. And of course, like those, like, they haven't figured out total football yet, which is the way that this particular roster needs to play, because that's the thing. Like, there's like going back to Moneyball, Billy Beane says, like, listen, it doesn't do any good what I do if you don't play the team as they're intended to be played.
Right.
And because you're dealing with a coaching staff that is partially, completely foreign to the concept of football as played in the rest of the world, like it's going to take that amount of time. So you hit that beginning point of the season, and then you also have the owner who's like now a renewed thirst for vengeance in a way.
Sure.
And lets her ex-husband back into her head. Like it actually, to me, makes sense that they would go after this person.
I hear you.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but
right. I hear you, but I feel like there's a little bit of let's stretch this out. Let's stretch this out.
Well,
and to me, it's one of those things that it just feels like and it's been interesting doing this rewatch over the last 3 weeks because I was hoping I would feel differently about season 3, but coming into season 3, I'm right back into the normal place I am, which is this feels weird. I don't understand why we're doing Zava. Jack is like when we get to like our least favorite things, all things Jack. I think Jack as a character needs to be put into the airlock. Madam President, go. You know what I mean? Like just call it and send her out. I want to see her go.
You and my wife are perfectly aligned on this. However, I will say I actually enjoy season 3. However, I think
No, whoa. I don't say I don't like season 3. I just say
felt like you were.
No. I'm simply saying
a little bit. You insulted him a little bit.
Not at all. No. Not at all. Not even a little bit. I enjoy the show
a little bit. Okay, you insulted him
maybe
a
little bit. Maybe a little bit. All right. All I'm saying is I think season 3 could have been different had it been structured in a different way and not
okay.
I feel like how can I say this? So the latter seasons of Silicon Valley I felt were stretched out in the same way that maybe this is the wrong comparison, but The Hobbit, for example, right? 3 movies. Story did not need 3 movies, needed 2 movies. That's it.
Oh, yeah, because you're going from one book for source
right,
material.
Exactly.
As
Same
opposed
thing
to Lord
for
of the
Silicon
Rings,
Valley.
where you have 3 books.
Should have been a 4 to 5 season series at tops. And everything beyond that was just filler crap that you were just doing because you were fulfilling a contract with HBO, which is just stupid in my mind.
So you're saying that this Ted Lasso should have been 2 seasons?
I think Ted Lasso could have been. I think you could have had a full season 3 if you kept the episodes to 30 minutes each. Yes, I think you could have done it.
I think the reason for that
because you cut a bunch of crap out that you don't need.
True.
And yes, the episodes are shorter, but you still get 10 to 12 episodes with shorter episodes.
Now, here's the thing, though. I think my contention is that, in a way, what ends up being season 3, even though I love it, I love season 3.
I love the end of season 3. I don't like the beginning of season 3.
I love the whole thing. And part of that is because I'm
Philistine.
As
I don't think you know what Philistine means.
You want to look up Philistine. And what I love in this series is Beard gets called out. Remember when he's like, no, I wasn't being ironic. I was being hypocritical. And then he walks out and Ted's like, is he right? Is he right? Yes. Beard just like whispers it. I love that turnaround. And that's part of the reason why I love season 3 is there's so many of those callbacks. Loops get closed. I am, as anyone who has watched enough of our shows, I'm a fan of excess. And that's I know. And much like Jesus turning water into wine, and not just wine, but the best wine. I'm very much a fan of season 3 because it's excessive in the amount of story we get. It's excessive in everything that we get.
Folks, this is coming from the man who just drank a purple-colored beer and now has moved on to a yellow-colored beer. I just want to say that.
I could only take so much Welch's grape jelly. No, Smuckers, because with a name like Smuckers.
Oh, Smuckers, good stuff.
But the thing is, I do wonder, because we know in
Yes.
season 2, Apple TV or Apple, whatever part of
Apple
Apple
TV
runs Apple TV, wanted 2 more episodes after they'd already kind of written for 10. So I do wonder if there was a mandate for longer episodes, because there's,
Could be.
did the show become a victim of its own success, that they're just like more, and they're like, okay, we can give you more, and in the same way as you watch some director's cuts or you watch some deleted scenes, back in the day when we had DVDs and Blu-rays and you actually got this crap, as opposed to streaming now where they just decide to edit it for you. And you would see some deleted scenes where you're like, I totally understand why that didn't make the movie. And others you're like, oh, I would have loved that in the movie. I understand why they didn't put it in, but me personally, I would have loved that. And why some people love, like, they would love an extended cut with everything put back in, because they just want all of it. Just give me all of it. Just push it all into my eye holes and just give it to me. I think that there might have been that mandate, or there was that leniency to just, do whatever you want. And they're like, okay, well, we'll give the fans everything. And in this season, there is a lot going on. Like, even in past episodes, you would go look at an episode, you're like, that happened in 35 minutes? That's a lot of stuff that happened. This is like, okay, you thought we could do that with 35 minutes. Wait till you give us an extra 15 and we go to 50. There's so many story arcs going through this season. But then again, I love it because I fell in love with these characters. And it's one of those things where I just want to see what's going on with them. And even though I'm like, yeah, Jack, not the greatest character, but at the same time, definitely served a purpose in that, like, it shows you this other side of Keeley. Because at this point, we kind of haven't seen this aspect of Keeley. Roy was an imperfect thing. Jamie was an imperfect thing. Jack is an imperfect thing, but it's a very different imperfect thing. And, and the same with Zava. Like, we've seen, Roy kind of being the failing, the fading star. We've seen Jamie being the upcoming star. We've seen Sam being the upcoming star, but we've never seen, like, the actual honest to goodness superstar thrown into this perfect team that cares about each other and all this. And it's also like the thing about him. So I was watching an episode and Kaylin was watching it and she was like, I kind of like him. And I'm like, he's like,
who's him?
Zava. And she's like, he's kind of dumb. And I'm like, yeah, it's a great example of how someone can be so utterly amazing at one thing and be so dumb at everything else. And it kind of just shows, like, what happened, like, what happens when you take someone like this and drop them into this team. And it just changes the entire, you're back to, like, when Jamie was being his prima donna self, and it helps further Jamie's character, because he is the one person, because even Roy's on board with getting Zava, and Roy is kind of the first person besides Jamie to kind of go, oh, this is probably not good. He's like, Jamie's the canary in the coal mine, and Roy is the first person who's like, hey, is that canary alive? Like, he's the first person outside of Jamie to notice. And to me, like, that then furthers their relationship, because that's kind of another huge part of season 3 is, like, Roy and Jamie kind of coming together, and how that changes Jamie even further. I mean, he's already kind of changed as a person and a character, but he needs Roy to really be on his side and to be in his corner to really get to that final point in the season. So to me, like, it all kind of, it all fits in. I understand why, fans are like, it's too much and all that. Like, I get it. But from my perspective, I love this. I just love more. I would have been fine with, like,
I think you and I
10-minute episodes
are on opposite ends of the spectrum. I understand your
normal,
your view. But I do think there's an element of excess here. I do think there's an element of story that was told that maybe didn't need to be told. No, it did not. It did not. No, it didn't. No, it didn't.
Give me all of it.
Oh my God.
Do it.
By the way,
yes,
I will say on this viewing,
yes,
I did notice, and I pointed out to my wife, how Rupert's office very much mirrors the setting of the Emperor in Return of the Jedi. Which, by the way, Jason Sudeikis is on the record saying we use the Star Wars template of Star Wars Empire and Return of the Jedi to tell this story in 3 seasons. And so I thought it was very appropriate that you had the some very very clear similarities between
the Emperor's
Rupert's office
throne room on the Death
and the
Star.
Emperor's throne room on the Death Star. So yes.
Oh my gosh. And so I mean, here's just kind of a quick rundown of what we have going on here. Like as Robert Wool, Crash Davis would say on the mound in Boulder, and we got a lot of shit going on.
We do.
We have Rupert's arc. Let's just start there. We have his return with West Ham and his ultimate downfall. We have Nate's arc, his struggles with how he left Richmond, his newfound fame, trying to impress people, becoming himself, getting a girlfriend, coming to understand who Rupert is, and then going back to Richmond. We've got Zava's arc, which is basically, I love this, being sour yelled into coming to Richmond, which is a great scene. I love the fact that you have Rebecca just yelling at him as he's taking a piss. And which to me,
Rebecca in season 3 has a lot of like shame yelling going on, which is really, really good.
Yeah. And I love the fact that it's such a Rebecca thing where she's like, if you were so good, which you're not, and this and that and the other, and then she's like, and you eat too much asparagus. I'm like, just give her the Emmy right now. Just every year, just give her the Emmy, whether she's been in anything or not. How he comes to Richmond, how his presence affects the team, and then how he basically just quits on them because this is who this guy is.
Yeah,
he just doesn't give a rip about anyone but himself, but in a way that is almost in a way it's almost like when Jamie and Ted have their exchange in the parking lot, and Keeley is talking about, would you be a panda or a lion? And Jamie's like, why would I want to be anyone else? I'm me. And Ted's like, I don't know that you know how psychologically healthy that is. And in this weird way, like Zava is so self-centered that he's actually achieved almost this Buddha state where you're like, it's Zen-like, your self-centeredness, in that you've almost become a state of perfection in this, where you exist in this bubble where nothing else exists. It's remarkable how he managed to shut everything else out. We have Michelle Lasso banging her therapist now, and Ted's having a really rough time with that, understandably. Keely's arc, she's getting past Roy and Jamie, then into Jack, then ghosted by Jack, and then all while dealing with a sex tape being released. Leaked, excuse me. Then we have Ted's arc, where he's basically dealing with Michelle's relationship, how to coach the team, whether he should still be in London, what is the mission, all of that. We have Roy's arc, where he's learning to embrace his feeling, which I thought was a nice touch in season 2 when he's like, and it hurt my feeling, like not feelings. Roy's like, no, I've only got one feeling, and it hurt it. How he asks for help, what he really wants to do, and then where that leaves him at the end of season 3. Jamie's arc, how he sees his own behavior through Zava, gives up personal glory for the sake of the team, forgiving his father, and I'm sure that I've missed at least a couple of other mini arcs going on here. I mean, it's kind of insane how much is going on in this season. But I would contend, I've completely didn't even mention Trent Crimm is writing a book. And then, oh, by the way, Colin is gay. There is a lot going on here.
Bumbercatch gets some love in this season, my friend. Bumbercatch.
Yes. Let's go to The Hague. Ask some questions. Oh my gosh, sunflowers. Jeez. So much going on, but at the same time, it's one of those deals where for me, if you're it's interesting how Sudeikis says they followed kind of the Star Wars map of making this a trilogy and all that. To me, Return of the Jedi is actually a very uncomplicated movie. You know what I mean? It's kind of straightforward. You got the cute Ewoks and all that. They kind of went.
Ted Lasso's the reverse of that, though. It's not about vengeance. It's about forgiveness.
Well, it's redemption for everybody.
Yes.
And comeuppance and all that. But
except
to me, in terms of Wanker. In terms of like layeredness, though, like they went the total opposite direction. Like instead of having a very simple third season, like they're like, no, we're actually turning up the volume on the complexity of these characters, and we're throwing you some curveballs here and really diving into this. Like Nate's entire arc, in and of itself, is rather amazing. Just all the nuance of what's going on with him and him getting a girlfriend and all of that and how she affects him and you know, like really getting like some huge emotional moments for him when you think about it. Like the moment when he leaves Bones and Honey, when basically he's like, oh my gosh, Rupert is totally messing around on his wife and I can't do this. And he's like, he's expecting me to mess around on my girlfriend and all this. And when he goes back to the apartment and just silently embraces Jade, like, oh my gosh, that's like, that always hits me in the feels. And then the whole thing with his dad, oh my gosh.
Yep.
And then his moment with Ted, like there's so much just in that. But at the same time,
it's hard to watch that finale and not have it be Dusty in the room.
Oh, it's tough to watch
so many times in that one episode. Oh my God.
From Mom City through So Long and Goodbye.
Yep.
And actually even starting at Sunflowers, like there is like, and I get that a lot of people, and let's just take you for instance, like the first half of season 3 is really tough. I think part of that is because the second half of season 3 is so fracking good.
But that's part of my point and part of my thesis with this is when you look at the mid part of the season and go to the end, focused storytelling, very to the point, very much, direct and focused on what it's doing. That's why I feel like the first half of the season is just filler in some ways.
I disagree.
That's me.
I think that you need the first half to get to the second half. It is the lockups. It is the tests of strength. It is the reverse, it is the headlocks. It is it is that part of a wrestling match that gets you to that second half. You have to have that feeling out, the awkwardness, the weird sort of moments that then inform the second half. My contention.
All right.
In terms of like story arcs, is there, well, let's just play this game for a second. If you had to choose out of the story arcs that I just kind of listed out, what would you cut? Give me one or two arcs that you're going to cut. Cause I mean, if you really want to cut this back to like 30, 35, 40 minutes an episode, you're essentially going to have to say like one or two of these just goes wholesale. Like not that you turn the volume down.
Zava.
Really?
Yep.
Zava. So how then does the team come together? Like they just kind of show up and they have another tie streak or they have another losing streak? Because we've seen that in the first seasons.
I think you can go an episode or two with them struggling in terms of finding their identity in the Premier League, and then you get to a place of Sunflowers where, and part of what I think is the beauty of Sunflowers is not just, how it branches out to a bunch of different characters kind of having their realization moments, but that is the one where Ted, we get introduced into total football, and this is now, I feel like what season 3 does is really get, focused and serious about where Ted's head is in terms of the game and in terms of really being, a focused strategist with it, whereas before he was kind of relying on others to kind of tell him what to do. Like he's basically kind of now working on this new system. And that's where I think like if you went with a 10 episode season 3, have the first, 2 or 3 episodes be them struggling, and then 4 or 5. Here? Yeah.
You've got to have a 12 episode series. That's what Apple TV is ordering. So that's why they had to add 2 episodes.
Do another Christmas episode, do another blah blah episode. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I don't think Zava needs to be there. I think I mean, the one thing I'll say about the Zava aspect of it is that I think the first part of the season is really about the lack of belief they have in themselves. that part I will grant, that they very clearly have a lack of confidence and belief in themselves. And I say that because in the last 2 episodes of that season, that becomes a major theme that gets really hit upon again, is that idea of belief, and I think, if there's anything redeemable about the Zava arc, it is the fact that, yes, they go into this whole thing with a player who is very dominant in and of themselves, but they do it out of a sense of they don't believe enough in themselves to be able to do it on their own. And yet they clearly go on and do something that is, at the end of the season, they've gone on essentially a 16-game winning streak. It's very Moneyball-esque, right? Moneyball was all about that 20-game win streak that the Oakland A's went on in 2002 or 2003. And, here, they have Richmond go on this 16-game win streak after suffering, a string of defeats with Zava on the team. So
no, because they go on the losing streak, proper losing streak after Zava leaves.
I think there's a larva behind you.
Where?
Right behind you. Turn around. Seriously, turn around.
Ah.
Tell her what I just said, because it did look like there was some sort of larva thing behind you.
He called you a larva. How do you feel about that?
I am a worm.
Gosh.
Let the record show she agreed with me.
So you're going to bed? Is that what's going on? All right. How you feeling? Take my ibuprofen? Okay. All right. Well, get some sleep. That's going to help. All right. Anything you want to say to Tim before you go to bed? This thing's going to split my hands here.
Jeez, even with the throat issue.
You nearly shoved that right up my nose. That came dangerously close to my nose.
Thanks, Dad.
Anyways, anything you'd like to say?
No, not much. BTS performed at the FIFA World Cup today, guys. Yay.
Yay.
They did perform Dynamite, though, so I am disappointed at that.
Did you see the thing that I sent to you and Mom? The Ted Lasso intro for Justin Bieber?
No, I didn't see that.
Why do I bother sending texts?
I didn't see it. I get 12 different people sending me reels at a time.
You, sir, are the Oakland A's of the order of text that she gets.
Pretty much. All right. Well, good night. Get some sleep. All right. Love you.
There's rich teams. There's 30 layers of crap, and then there's us.
It's kind of like us with podcasting.
Kind of, in a way.
All right. So where were we?
You were talking about arcs, and I said Zava can go, and you disagreed, and we have been vehemently debating that since then.
So if I have this right,
yes.
So Richmond ties Chelsea,
yes,
to start the season, which is unexpected, and then they get Zava immediately afterwards. Then they go on a run with Zava, which is in actuality I think is 4, 5, 6 games. Which,
by the way, is to the tune of the Adriano Celentano, my and another thing from 3 weeks ago, Prisencolin Sinculos.
And then they lose to West Ham.
Yes.
And I think...
And they lose in very very notable fashion, because they come off as a thug team in the second half.
Oh, it's Baz.
Beard
we're playing like Italians, and Baz is like, I love it.
Beard and Roy basically show them a vengeance clip of Nate tearing up the believe sign, and oh my God, it's hysterical.
But I think that they have that one loss,
yes,
and then I think they have a couple of losses
They do. They go on more, and it seems like the teams have basically wised up to Zava, and they are essentially playing defense against him because they're not giving the players any room to play.
It's not an extended losing streak because then it's they have Man City, and that's the game that he no-shows for. I think it's like 1 or 2 games. And then they go on like a 3 or 4 game.
No, they go on like I think a 4 or 5 game streak where they lose with Zava.
I don't think it was that long, but maybe
it is because then Zava disappears, and then Ted has to come up with something else, and they go on this like 15, 16 game streak.
Well, but then they lose more after Zava leaves.
Okay, and
that's when you go to Sunflowers because they even lose in the friendly that they're playing in Amsterdam.
Okay.
So I what I'm saying is I think that we've seen Richmond have losing streaks when Ted Lasso first shows up. We've seen them have winless streaks to start off season 2.
Yep.
We've seen them even have win streaks because we saw them kind of pull things together at the end of season 2 to get promoted. I think this was a way for to show what happens when almost the Ted Lasso gambit for bringing back Jamie Tart doesn't work. In a way, like it works, but it doesn't work because you're winning, but at the same time, your team is not really that much. It's relying on this one guy. You know what I mean? And the cracks start to show of like what happens then when that one guy,
But you get the sense that they're not playing their players to the fullest because they're so focused on Zava. Like Zava is the weak point because they invest everything in him.
Mm-hmm.
And once teams shut him down, they go on this losing streak.
And I think that's showing in another way, like Ted's fallibility, because he kind of goes along with it. And I think at the end, he realizes like, I never should have gone with this.
Yeah.
I should have listened to Jamie in the way that, he had a good reason to bring back Jamie and to disregard and to listen to Sam, but at the same time go, yes, but with Zava, there was no compelling reason. There's no like, Sam's had a great father. He's had a great family. Jamie hasn't. Shouldn't this be the person that we're investing in? Shouldn't this be the person who gets another chance? Zava is just a head case who is a mercenary. And Ted's like, oh, I done effed up here. And I feel like that's what, one of my favorite moments is like his speech at the end of Signs, because you can see him like realizing like, I screwed up here. I don't want to mess around with this anymore. And he's encountering his own shame. He's encountering his own issues and all of that. And I think that you needed that to add another layer to Ted's character and to the character of the team. But I mean, I totally get where you're coming from. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just, my counter argument is I do feel it was necessary. It added a different wrinkle to the team and to the season that we hadn't seen before.
I think you're wrong.
Okay. Is there another arc that you would cut? What would be second place to Zava?
Don't
tell me, Jack.
Probably Keeley's.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel important to me. I mean, I think, I think her arc is there mostly to show, okay, she's had this great run. Now she runs into some resistance and some challenge. Right. And that's fine, but again, I go back to the point of focus and what's most important to tell right now. And I think, Nate, I think Ted, Roy, Jamie, I think all those arcs are very, very important to the really the soul of the show. And, Keeley's is kind of a, I mean, I don't want to diminish it because I think, she's an important character and she does have value to the show, but I don't know. It's kind of like, she separates from Roy and it's just kind of, what do we do with her? That's how I kind of felt like the Jack arc was, where it's just like, what do we do with her? Oh, hey, there's this investor and she gets interested in her and here we go. And then at the end, now it's like, well, it's Jack sorry, it's Keely, Roy, and Jamie. And what do we do? So those would be my two. Is Zava and Keely are kind of, to me, less important. And I say that because when we get to the end of the series, and when I was watching, the second to last episode and the last episode, the things that probably evoke the most emotion from me was the things having to do with the team, and having to do with Ted and his relationship with the team, and with Nate and his relationship with the team and with Ted, and Beard and his relationship with Nate, and with, just all of that is what I was reacting to more. And it's not that Keely's not important, but it's just that I just kind of felt like that's where the focus needed to be. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's just
I will have a thought on that later on when we get down to
all right.
Another thought that you had, and I'll retort, and remind me to retort with vigor as oh my gosh.
I was literally about to say that.
What's his face? I can't remember the professor's name in Good Will Hunting. The Fields Medal winner. Stellan Skarsgård. Yeah. Sean, I think it was his. No, Sean was Robin Williams' character. I don't know. Anyways, the smarmy bastard. Responder with vigor.
Professor Gerald Rochambeau. No, Lambeau. Professor Gerald Lambeau.
First, I kick you in the nuts, and then
I'll Rochambeau you for it.
All right, you're gonna laugh at this, but I got to take another bathroom break.
Of course you do.
And when we come back, we're gonna actually take things a little out of order. So I've got to,
folks. I'm sitting here solid.
He's peeing in a bucket whenever I go to the bathroom.
I am not. I'm solid as a rock.
I play back when I scrub through these episodes and I make the edits. I see him, and I can see him with a Home Depot bucket in the background. I hope that you never have to see that image, folks.
Never.
Wait, you peeing in a bucket is chef's kiss? Okay, whatever.
No, I'm just saying I'm fine.
I'm not here to
steady as a
shame.
board,
You do
my
what you
friend.
gotta do.
Yeah, you do what you got to do.
A few moments later.
Alrighty, sir. So my curveball is that we're not going to start off with our favorite episode. We're not going to start off with our favorite unappreciated episode. What is your favorite storyline from season 3?
Where is it? Okay. My favorite storyline from season 3 is Nate's journey back to Richmond. I think it is a wonderful coda to the idea of, and we see this, throughout the 3 seasons, is the idea of forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that, we have the character of Nate who goes totally to the dark side at the end of season 2, where he leaves Richmond and he goes to West Ham. He's coaching, a different team, and
coaching Rupert's team.
Yeah, he's coaching Rupert's team. He's accepting of, this new life, this new, sort of mandate on him, and yet at the same time, especially like I forget what episode it was, but the first time West Ham faces Richmond, and he, walks onto the field. When Ted goes to shake his hand, and someone says, you didn't shake Coach Lasso's hand, and he's like, well, I didn't mean to. And I think it's interesting that with Nate, it's this sort of interplay between turning to the dark side totally, which is kind of what he does in episode 1, where he makes fun of Ted, to him realizing like at one point when I'm watching season 3, and I forget what episode it was, he tries to recreate the Diamond Dogs at West Ham.
Oh my gosh, the Love Hounds!
Hounds, which I thought was hysterical.
That because it is secondhand embarrassment. It's painful.
It is.
I'm like, he's
like, because
he even makes the howl, and I'm like, oh,
because the way that team, because it's Rupert's team, and the way Rupert constructed that team, no one on that team has the sensibility and the same heart that the folks on Richmond do.
Yeah.
And Nate all of a sudden discovers this by trying to create this other version of what they had with the Diamond Dogs at West Ham, and the guy, I mean, both guys that he pulls in are just looking at him like he's nuts.
Well, but then they start answering, and then afterwards he's like, "We're never going to do this again."
No.
And it's awful. It is awful. Every time I
Yes.
watch that, I want to get up and go pee or get a glass of water or fast forward. I'm like, I can't watch this. It's horrible. Horrible.
So for me, you know, and one of the, I mean, several of the emotional moments of season 3 come down to when Coach Beard talks to Nate about forgiveness, and we learn a lot about Coach Beard in just that one conversation, because he talks about him and Ted's background and why he's with Ted and why he's so devoted to Ted. And, you know, there's that, and then there's just the, you know, scene with him and Ted where he basically, you know, asks for forgiveness and you know, basically collapses into his arms, just, you know, crying because he knows he was wrong and so forth. I just think Nate's arc in season 3 is emotionally satisfying. It is, you know, this is what we want for this character. You know, Ted shows up at this team not knowing the game, not knowing really anything about what he's doing, and yet he sees this kid as, you know, as his father describes, as a genius, you know, as someone who is very knowledgeable in tactics and wants to see him thrive, and quite honestly is perplexed at the end of season 2 with why he is, you know, so dismissive of him and so angry with him. And so I think, you know, in season 3 where Nate kind of comes around and, you know, Jade plays a big part in that. You know, I think you know, she's part of why he leaves West Ham. And then I think the other linchpin is his father. I think, you know, all these characters, you know, Jamie, Ted, and Nate all have, you know, father issues that they're kind of working through. And so I think, you know, the fact that, you know, I think, you know, in the episode, and it's, you know, not to spoil anything, but International Break is my, you know, favorite episode of the season, because I think, you know, there's a major pivot that happens with Nate where he finally kind of understands his father a bit more. And I think that was kind of the thing fueling a lot of his angst in season 2 is, you know, he wasn't viewed as someone who was an equal or, you know, in season 2 there, like one thing I noticed rewatching, you know, season 2 especially was the way that, you know, certain characters would do things and other characters would be, you know, really offended by that. But when Nate says, "Hey, I did the same thing," they're all kind of like, "Oh, that's okay." And I think there was just a insecurity there about who he was. And then
because Roy doesn't see him as a threat.
Roy doesn't see him as a threat. But once he locks in with Jade, and I don't want to say he finds his value because he's dating her, but he starts to understand a bit more about himself. And I think, you know, that's where she plays such a key role, because without her, he doesn't come to that understanding. You know, he doesn't understand that Rupert is really not a great person because of the fact that he's inviting him to essentially go off and, you know, cheat on her with, you know, these other women. And, you know, if it's not for her, you know, maybe Nate does that, but otherwise with her though, Nate has that, you know, moral compass to say, no, I'm not doing this. I want to go spend time with her, you know, and he sees what he has in her. And so, so for me, Nate's journey back to Richmond was probably my favorite storyline. What is yours?
Do you want to get into your special mention at all? Or you know what? I'll do mine and then you do your special mention.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Jamie's journey to becoming an unselfish player, because again, this is going back to literally one of the first scenes in season 1, where Jamie just does it all himself, and we get plenty of references of, you know, well, Jamie Tart, you know, pass to his teammate or go for the glory himself. That's usually a rhetorical question. And in this season, he finally kind of, and I feel like through the lens of Zava, he's like, oh my gosh, that's who I was. I'm now seeing it as like one of my teammates. And the fact that we then get to the point where even at Chelsea, where he speaks up and he's like, he's the one who's like identifies the problem. Like, we need to just go as far as you can. They're not marking us. They're letting you dribble as far as you want. Just take the ball as far as you can. And he's the one who sees that. He's the one who notices, like, this is not going to be a good idea to bring Zava into this locker room. Believe me, I was the asshole who was, in the poop in the punch bowl before. You're now dropping not just a poop, you're dropping like a gigantic turd into the punch bowl. And he's the one who sees that. And then he's the one who, in total football is like, I'm not doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't be playing to me. You need to be playing through me, and realizes like he's not, his best asset is being the person who is conducting this thing, not getting the glory as the soloist. Like, it's better if I'm utilizing this way. And it goes right through to finally being comfortable with being the decoy in the game-winning goal of the final game. Like, he's okay with being the decoy in that situation, as he plays it exactly as Ted asked him to in season 1. I want the ball. Give me the ball. I want the ball, please. Like, almost complete mimicry of how Ted acted it out in season 1. And it is where Jamie kind of becomes the player that he is meant to be and the person he's meant to be. And you can kind of see this happiness in him and through him. So I enjoy that, because it's like, here's a guy who's so talented, but he doesn't know how to direct that. And, in small ways, maybe I've been that way myself in ways, like, because I'm not self-loathing enough to say that I've never been really good at something. I have been. But it also comes through seeing other people who are uber talented, but it's like, oh my gosh, you just can't stop stepping on your own shoelaces.
Yeah.
Because you're so friggin' talented, you think that there is nothing wrong with you, and that you don't need to share, and that you don't need to be generous with other people. You don't even, in fact, need to acknowledge other people, because you're just so damn good at what you do. It's like, well, who wants to be around you? Good luck doing whatever you're doing as a solo act, because no one wants to help support someone like that. There's give and take. And even in a situation where someone's like, okay, we know that you're the show, there still needs to be a little give and take, just in a respect level. And seeing Jamie kind of see all that click into place, and then also kind of just seeing like where he came from, especially with everything with his dad before, and then how his relationship with his mom, and then finally kind of coming that full circle with his dad is like,
yeah,
wow, it really fulfills that thing that Ted is talking about, where he's more concerned about how these young men are off the field than they are in terms of wins and losses. So I really appreciate that aspect. What is your special mention? Because you just got to work one in.
I do. Colin's journey. I think, one thing about season 3 is we see some of the, side characters, start to come to prominence and have, some great stories behind them. And Colin's one of those. I think his whole, story overall, like, I love the conversation that he and Trent have when in Sunflowers, and then later on as he, becomes comfortable, coming out to the team, and all of that with Isaac, I think is
the end conversation with him and Isaac as they're playing.
Yes.
Video game is awesome.
Very good. Very
in
good.
So many different ways.
Yeah. And so I think, that's a special part of season 3. And I think is one of the things they get right, which is to, give some of these characters who have been kind of off to the side a little bit more focus, and to have them, and like not to mention what all of that ends up playing into in terms of Isaac's reaction in a game, and then Roy's reaction, and the way he handles the press conference around that reaction, with the press and everything. I think just is really well done, and probably one of the highlights of the season for me.
Yeah. No, that is such an underrated little mini arc because it doesn't cover the whole season.
Yeah.
But it really is, in terms of the soul of the show, it is so important.
Yep.
You know? And I appreciate, you know, the little pressure valve that's built in there, because there is the comedian Bill Hicks was about as close to a fire and brimstone preacher this side of Sam Kinison, who actually at one point was a preacher, which is terrifying to think about. Being locked in a small church with Sam Kinison preaching, you know, Revelation. But this idea that, oh my gosh, where was I going with this? But oh no, Bill Hicks. So he would just rant at people, and eventually someone was like, "Dude, you've got to give them a break. You have to develop some sort of like pressure valve to give them a laugh, because you're just smacking them in the face, and they're just, after a while, they're like they came for a comedy show." And he would have these lines that he could throw in, and one of them was, you know, he'd be going off on somebody, and not necessarily in a funny way, but in like a real dark humor way. And he'd be like, "By the way, I am available for children's parties. I'm Beelzebozo, the clown from hell." And it would give people a moment to be like, "Oh, thank God I can." And that's sort of the thing, like, where in that episode of, it's the French episode, I can't pronounce, Locker Room Affalaise or whatever. Where Ted's giving the speech and Colin's like, "Did you just compare being gay to a Denver Broncos fan?"
Yes.
And it kind of gives everyone a moment to go, "Oh my gosh." And it gives you like that moment to just breathe. And then for him to kind of deliver the punchline so that it's not like this, you're holding your breath the whole time.
Yeah.
Just a very well executed. And, you know, there's an episode of one of my favorite sitcoms ever, Titus, where they do it. It's a episode called Tommy is Gay, and it's a character who is, I don't think he ends up being gay, but there's this accusation that he's gay, and it was fairly somewhat recently to the Matthew Shepard murder. But it is this way of incorporating this thing where it takes the wind out of it enough. Like they start, but then by taking the wind out of the insult of calling someone gay, they manage to then they almost like rope-a-dope you, and then they deliver their commentary on top of that and drive it home that, like, okay, this is really stupid to be homophobic and to be, you know, bigoted against gay people and all that. But they have to take the edge off of it, give you a few moments to laugh, and then they come over the top rope with it and be like, and here's the point. Because we're human. Like, not everybody is ready for pure truth, you know? You got to have a little sugar to make the medicine go down. So I think that's interesting how they managed to do that in that episode specifically, but with Colin's, you know, this little mini arc of Colin, that there is just enough kind of laughs, you know, almost like they after the whole Anne Frank thing, you know, like, oh, over by that, you know, pink triangle. He's like, I think that came a bit later. Oh, you know, like almost gives you a moment to go, haha, gives you a little chuckle. But at the same time, you kind of have to sit with the fact that, like, oh, this does tie into each other, you know? So I do appreciate how they can give you a little bit of they let a little of the pressure off, but they don't really let you off the hook completely. Like, you still have to sit with it. You still have to think about it. No, it's great that they work that in. I think that's one of the beautiful parts of the soul of the show, honestly.
Yeah. Yep. I would agree.
Well, since you already kind of let the cat out of the bag, for your favorite episode, oh my gosh. So our friggin' cat Happy, was laying underneath the blankets this morning. I woke up to him like laying against my leg under the blankets. I'm like, how the hell did you get there? And you're never on my side of the bed. Turns out he got bitey with my wife, and my wife kicked him out of her side of the bed. So he's like, I'll go over to his side of the bed. And he tunneled underneath the sheets to my side.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
And I'm like, well, I'm glad he didn't get bitey because he was awfully close to a very important region of my body where I'd rather he not get bitey. It's one thing if he bites your arm. It's another if he sinks his teeth in somewhere and I come like 3 feet off the bed and hover for a moment. Where the hell were we going with that? Oh, I cat out of the bag. So what is your favorite episode, sir?
So it would be International Break. This is where we see, or we learn that Nate leaves West Ham and tries to find himself. Basically, great scene when he tries to go home and breaks into the house, and his father and mother are ready to beat him to death with a baseball bat because they think
a cricket bat.
Is it a cricket bat? Okay.
Which is even worse because a cricket bat is nice and flat, so you could really get some solid contact. Like, that's going to hurt.
Indeed. We have the return of, is it Edwin Akufo, if I'm not mistaken? Yes.
Yep.
Who is coming back to start a Super League, but not not before he puts poor Sam Obasanya through the ringer, both in terms of threatening his restaurant with his own Nigerian restaurant, and then on top of that, paying a $20 million bribe to the Nigerian government to keep him off the national team.
Yeah, the Nigerian national team. Oh, that's gotta hurt. Gotta hurt.
One of the funniest things, though, with that character, though, is the fact that he has a guy who does the handshaking and all of the, sort of interplay, and does the whole, like, goes to shake the hand, is like, does the smooth operator move,
But I love how Sam's like, you don't have to do this, Francis. Exactly. But he does it anyways. And I love something that was pointed out, like in at the end of when Akufo is there and he's in the training room waiting for Sam's answer, Francis is practicing his handshake with the skeleton, like the anatomy skeleton there. I was like, that's right, I forgot.
Yep.
Oh, such a beautiful little like Easter egg joke.
Good stuff. The other part of this episode is, Rebecca gets invited to this meeting of, the owners to, be a part of the Super League, and, her whole, speech and the way that she kind of approaches that with, talking, some sense into them in terms of what they're doing, why are they doing it, eventually talks them out of it. Gets to a place where Rupert himself is kind of like enamored with her again, to the point of where he tries to, make a move on her, and she's like, no.
Yeah.
No. You are shut off from such, such
Jabroni!
Indeed. But, the part of that I think gets lost is, that whole sequence where she kind of talks about, him and his history with Richmond is, very much done in a way that is tragic, because you come to understand, that Rupert's involvement in soccer and in English, soccer is based on his own love of this club and the fact that he's lost his way.
Yes.
And and that's what's like, to me, that's the tragic part, is you see, you kind of come to an understanding of what was lost this whole time. Like we've kind of assumed, Rupert's this owner, he has this team, and he just kind of does what he wants to do. And you kind of understand a little bit more of his backstory. You feel a little bit sorry for him, but he also kind of reacts to the fact that she brings that story up and, doesn't go along with the Super League. And yet at the same time, when he goes to make a move on Rebecca, you also understand why she is like, no, this isn't going to happen.
Well, but there's two moments there that I think are fantastic.
Yeah.
The first being when she starts telling that story, it's not like Rupert being a smarmy prick like he is almost in every other scene in this entire series.
Yep.
There's a bit of genuine, like, there's
respect.
Well, but there's kind of that shorthand of people who have been in a relationship, and you refer back to something that is kind of a common ground, and there is that very innocent sort of it's a very innocent sort of smirk that he has there. It's different than his other expressions throughout this. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, this is who Rupert was before all of this, before, this is who he kind of could be if he listened to his better angels.
Yes.
But he doesn't.
Yes.
And then that moment when he goes to kiss her, like, it's that thing where it's like, well, number one, I mean, after that whole thing and all of that, like, how could you not, fall in love with Hannah Waddingham in that moment? How could you not fall in love with Rebecca?
Gosh.
Like, even if she is covered in friggin' Chicago hot dog from head to toe and has a piece of chili in her hair or whatever, how could you not in that moment? Like, so you almost feel for him because you're like, oh, of course he's going to try to kiss her because he's just spellbound by her in a way. Like,
that whole thing between her giving that speech and Nate playing his violin is just, man.
And that was Nick Muhammad
emotional,
actually playing.
Man.
That was him. That's actually him playing, and it's his wife doing the accompaniment on piano.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Yep. I think the other underrated part of this episode is Danny Rojas going dark side on Van Damme, which is hysterical. It's like, we are not friends, we are enemies. And then the whole thing he does with the Dorito chips where he like breaks the bag and just kind of empties it out, shakes it a little more and gives him the bag back.
Yeah. And then the flip, I was like, oh, that's brilliant. But I love how he's like, and you will be my bitch.
Yeah.
Like, gosh, like, we've never seen Danny. It was like a freaking switch was flipped.
Oh yeah. Dark side Danny.
Can I just make one quick reference? Like, this is where we see Rebecca actually utilize that whole thing where she makes herself big.
Yes.
And seeing herself as the little girl.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you, like, every single time, I've watched this show almost 10 times through, folks. I don't know that I should be proud of that. I feel like, I feel like, oh my gosh, not what Arlo Guthrie, when he's in the middle of Alice's wrestling, I can sing this song for another half hour. I ain't proud. Like, I'm not proud that I've seen this show almost 10 times through, but like every single time I see Rebecca look in the mirror and see little Rebecca, I get choked up.
Yeah.
Like, and it is the same level of emotion every single time because you just see this, you recognize that inside all of us is that little kid still. And you can either dismiss them or you can kind of embrace them and try and protect them or acknowledge them or whatever. And I get, that gets me every friggin' time. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then just the fact that she kind of appreciates that and then is like, all right, MFers, you have no idea who's rolling in on you now. Like, it almost bolsters her in a way. And I love that. I absolutely love that, that she can still see that part of her. That's just always a beautiful moment for me. And actually, if I'm remembering right, that is the same actor who plays little Rebecca ends up playing the daughter of the Dutch dude at the end.
Oh,
same little girl.
Nice.
Which I think is a beautiful piece of symmetry, really.
Yeah.
So
the other two things that happen are Keeley loses her company. She ends up finding out that Jack has pulled all funding, and then Roy, as part of this, starts to kind of own up to his, end of, why he and Keeley broke up. So
yeah.
Overall, just a phenomenal episode, I think. And then not to mention, the interchange between Nate and his father, and how his father kind of owns up to, the things he's done that have probably contributed to Nate kind of feeling insecure and lost and that sort of thing was really well done. So, I mean, just a strong episode overall.
And I think you missed out. And granted, I mean, there's so much going on, just like all of these episodes.
Yeah.
You missed out on Jamie wearing Sam's number when he makes his.
Yes, I wanted to mention that too, that Jamie and Sam, just to kind of show the strength of their relationship now. He does that in honor of him.
Yeah. I mean, that's another circle, that's a loop that's closed, which is like,
yeah.
Again, one of the first things that we see Jamie doing is like insulting Sam.
Yep.
And then they're very oppositional, and then they kind of grow into this thing where when Isaac is gets red carded, they're, and hands Sam the captain band, and Jamie's like, and Sam like, and then he flips him off, which I'm like, but it winds up being this, it's not a mean thing. It's like a good humored thing between two friends, which is like, it's gorgeous. It's a beautiful, addition to that relationship. And then seeing this is like,
yep,
it's a wonderful thing. Again, another shade to, Jamie's character of selflessness, and also, kind of this furtherance of Sam's character, kind of a little boost to him in a low moment. So yeah, beautiful thing.
Yep, 100% agree. What is your favorite?
I'm going with a super obvious one here, just because I do love it. Sunflowers. I love one of the things I'm totally in the bag for is the speech about Van Gogh, or Van Gogh, however you pronounce it in Dutch. I'm going to say Van Gogh because that's how I've always done it. And I'm 50, and I'm not planning on changing that particular little aspect of my thing at this point. I love the speech of the museum employee talking about Van Gogh. Also because it ties into the Doctor Who episode where they bring Van Gogh forward in time and show him what a important artist he was, to, and the hope is that he, Amy Pond's character, is hoping that Van Gogh will see this and create more works of art and not kill himself, but he still ends up doing it. Very, like, the emotional tone of those is such a twin for me. Like, I can't separate the two. And I just love that moment of how Van Gogh is used as this tragic character, but who is ultimately so influential.
Yeah.
And something about that emotional note just is like a tuning fork for me. I love that. I do love the fact that, we start off on a low note and then kind of everyone is scattered, but we get the team kind of coming together in this very weird sort of combative way, which is great. Van Damme just, again, kind of proving like he's this weird sort of like likable creep where you're like, oh my gosh, if he could just figure this thing out, like, why do you want to go to the sex show, dude? Come on. He's somewhat classy. Jan Moss gets a little more, love for his character in this. We get Roy and Jamie going on their windmill adventure, and to
which
the point
is great.
Yeah.
Which, Roy finally learns how to ride a bike, which is hysterical.
But we also get kind of that background on Jamie. And because it's weird, because all of a sudden now Jamie is like an Amsterdam savant because he knows all this stuff. And finally he runs Roy into the frickin' ground. And Roy is almost more out of like self-preservation than anything else. He's like, stop. Why do you know so much about Amsterdam? Just so we can get a breath, And then we kind of learn this whole thing about Jamie and the whole windmill thing and all that. It's a great furtherance of those characters. We get Rebecca falling off a bridge and falling into love with a Dutch bloke, which is really interesting given like the fact that we've had a little bit of like a season and a half kind of preface of Jan Moss getting used to like what, kind of a Dutch stereotype, I guess. And now you have Rebecca kind of encountering this. And, you have the moment of them singing the Kenny Rogers song together, and you're like,
yep,
this is just so weird. But
in their respective languages, by the way.
Yes. And it's, again, that whole thing comes out weird because like they don't really follow up on it. But I'm like, there is this weird thing where I think most people have had, obviously nothing, I don't know that anyone's had this encounter specifically, but I think most of us have had some encounter with somebody that was like so short-lived, and you're like, that is bizarre that even happened. But at the time it was like, it was this nice little bubble, for however long it lasted. So it's like, it's kind of understandable, I think, for a lot of people, even if you're like, oh, it's so stupid, of course you would ask their name. Like,
right.
You're not thinking in your right head here. You're kind of in this alternate dimension. I love how we finally get the long-awaited pillow fight reference coming full circle. That was nice. We get Ted thinking that he's tripping, which is Beard being like, I've waited for you to say this for a long time. And then the other thing of, I think it's mostly, goes without saying, but trust me. That was great. The Burger Barn scene where all of a sudden Nate pops up out of nowhere, which is really friggin' weird. Piggy Stardust is just such a weird thing. And then of course I even forgot about this. Friggin' Will and Higgins going to the red light district. That whole thing of everybody like,
yep,
I'm going to the red light district, and everyone's like, nah. And this whole Chet Baker thing, and then Will ended up having a threesome, which I'm like, okay, we just throw that in, like, okay.
Well, did he have it or was he offered it?
I think he had it.
Well,
I mean, he had to have, right? I mean,
I don't think so.
I think he did.
Will's a good boy.
I think Will got all up in that. And then we get Total Football, and then we get the whole team.
Total Football.
The whole the Bob Marley song at the end. Just a fantastic episode. And granted, it is fish in a barrel because this is one of the most highly rated episodes. But damn it, it's highly rated for a reason. So it is my favorite episode of this season. Yes. What is your favorite underappreciated episode, sir? Actually, you know what? Let's do one more before we get to that. Favorite relationship.
For me, it was Jamie and Sam, and we just touched on it. Where Jamie kind of goes out of his way to, recognize and honor, Sam Obisanya, who, in season 1, he was very dismissive and in a lot of ways abusive of.
Oh yeah.
And so I think, and it's not, the example that I think exemplifies that more than anything else is what we just talked about from International Break, where he is playing for the English team and he goes out with Sam's number, knowing that Sam, for whatever reason didn't, we end up finding out why, but basically for Jamie has no, doesn't really know why Sam was left off the Nigerian team, but he wears his number. And I think it's a very poetic, statement because it shows how much growth has happened with Jamie over the last 3 years and the 3 seasons. And so like for me, I just like the fact that they are, they've gone from being, enemies to being, essentially, 2 very close teammates in what they do. Jamie kind of going out of his way to really, compliment and honor what Sam is doing on the pitch. And so, so for me, it's Jamie and Sam.
I'm sure I've noticed this before, but like, again, a nice little touch in that episode is when Jamie goes up to Sam after they've announced the international call-ups and all that.
Yep.
He doesn't say Sam when he goes over to him. He's like, hey, 24.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like foreshadowing that. And it's a nice little touch because then when he comes out with the 24 on his kit, like that's like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. Yeah. For me, Roy and Jamie, because again, it's been 3 seasons in the making here. Because they start off, with Roy being upset with Jamie and his side pricks, all the way to Roy talking with Jamie at Sam's restaurant about how, you used to be the best player. Now you're not. It happens. Mm-hmm. And there's extra weight coming from that because that's like Roy's saying like, this is what happened to me. Now it's happening to you. And almost like, but it happened to me when I was old. Doesn't have to happen to you right now. And offers to train Jamie. And so they go through that to the point where then when Zava quits, the very last thing at the end of the Signs episode is, Jamie saying 4 a.m. like we're going to be training, and Roy like bet your ass. And that's kind of like now the determination. Then we see it in Sunflowers and all the way up through, you kind of see like to the point where like one of the last visuals we have is Jamie and Roy and Keeley all sitting together. And it's this weird sort of thing where you're like, wow, they're getting along in some weird sort of way. They're getting along. So yeah, Roy and Jamie kind of managing to get on the same page is remarkable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, now what is your favorite underappreciated episode?
La Locker Room au Foyer.
Yes. Ooh, look at you with the pronunciation.
Indeed. This episode, Colin, comes out, and Colin and Isaac's friendship is tested. We, for much of the episode, think, Isaac has something against Colin for who he is, and it ends up being more about, the hurt that Isaac is carrying, that Colin didn't trust him enough with that. And I thought that was, like really interesting. I remember the first time we watched it, both my wife and I were kind of like, what's up with Isaac? Why is he being such a jerk? And feeling kind of angst toward him. And then you kind of come to understand what his issue is, Isaac, of course, in the game that's featured in that episode, going after the fan who, uses an unsavory term for, that lifestyle and so forth. And so,
which and they're like, oh, he used the F word.
Right.
And Ted Lasso's almost like, you guys use that word every other word. And it's like, oh, no, the other F word.
This one is also the episode where Roy learns to face uncomfortable situations, and he has, kind of his speech that is one of my favorite moments of the season. You have
not before we get a great press conference from Beard.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, that is phenomenal, where he just, steps
Walsh, underrated, Jimmy Page, overrated.
Yep. Yeah, and
stenographer.
The best part is Beard is taken out of the room, and then you see once the door is closed, he's still staring in from the window. Which my wife and I were both like laughing about. It was hysterical. We were just like, oh my god.
And then where can you take it from there? Rebecca's taking over, and they're like, "Who's your favorite classic rock guitarist?" And then it's like, okay, then how do you take it from there? Walking out, and Higgins is giving her shit like the guy from Cream. I love that moment of like, it's very rare that Higgins has the upper hand in that relationship. Yes. That he's like, oh, I'm totally slamming this one home.
Yep. Nate choosing Jade over Rupert. We see Rupert meet Jade and do his usual flirting shtick, and Nate already is kind of looking at him like, what the hell?
And I think Nate is totally oblivious. I think Jade is the one who catches on.
Oh yeah.
Because he's like,
you're right.
He's like, what do you think? He's like, he seems very wealthy.
Yeah.
Like she picks up on it right away. Like, oh, douchebag.
Yeah. And then of course Keely and Jack officially end in this episode,
which I know you're a big fan of.
I am. As soon as we get Jack out of there, good riddance. Although the actress who plays Jack, part of For All Mankind, and very good in it. So
became El Presidente, as a matter of fact.
She did.
And also playing another gay character, which I'm like, I feel like, are you being typecast here?
What is your underappreciated episode, Zed?
I'm going to go with one of the lowest rated episodes. Again, this, I guess, again, with Beard After Dark, I'm going to go with We'll Never Have Paris. A lot of folks just don't like this episode, but I feel like in the same way that the first half of the season for you is very much like, it's set up. I don't know why we have this. I think it's one of those things that it's a lot of unglamorous heavy lifting, moving characters into place for the stretch run on season 3. We kind of get Ted in a place where, if it's for sure that, Dr. Jacob and Michelle are getting married, then Ted's like, okay, well, what reason would I ever have to go home? I don't need to face that. I don't need to face, bump into them at the grocery store. It kind of starts sowing the seeds of all of the things moving around here, Keely and, all of this stuff. And it's not necessarily the most compelling television ever, but I would also say it's also not compelling because you have some other episodes that are absolutely fantastic. So it becomes that much worse by comparison. But I really feel like there's a lot to love in this episode.
Yeah.
And, down to, Beard and Henry and Ted singing,
Hey
Hey
Jude.
Jude.
Mm-hmm.
A lovely moment. I think there's a lot in this that might not be like, oh my gosh, it's not it's not sunflowers, it's not, this and that and the other, but it sets up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there should be a lot of credit given to those things, because you don't always, there's a lot of times that setups get blown. And I think here, like, it did a good job. We kind of got that stretch run of episodes. It did the work that it needed to do.
Indeed.
So that's my underappreciated episode. Let's see here. Let's go with favorite side character. Who you got there?
Jade.
Yeah, good one.
She's the linchpin to Nate turning back to the light side. And I think she's the anchor for him. She helps build his confidence. She challenges him in ways that no one else does. And, I think, like you said, when Rupert comes in, she's kind of like, yeah, I'm not impressed. It's very much, she kind of can see what he is, and really kind of dispels that for him, a bit. And so I think in this season, she's a major side character, because without her, I don't know that Nate has that realization and turns back. He's kind of blinded by his ambition and by, the fame and popularity that he kind of has amassed given who he is, but she kind of brings him back down to earth, and is a big part of that. I do have one special mention.
Of course you do.
Dark Side Danny Rojas, baby, and his mind games with Van Damme are absolutely hysterical.
It's almost NWO Rojas at this point. Like,
it is.
You might as well have the Hulk Hogan,
he looks so serious on the plane, crushes the bag of Doritos that Van Damme kindly offers him, and then proceeds to then kick a ball that busts Van Damme's face open.
Yeah.
Kills his nose. He has to wear a mask for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And, is just, and I love afterwards, he comes up, he's like, I'm so sorry, that I destroyed your face.
Game.
But what a game. Oh. So those are my two, Jade, and then the special mention of Dark Side Danny Rojas. What about you, sir? Who is your favorite side / new character?
There's not really a lot to choose from, unless, I don't feel like there's as many. This is, I admittedly left this category in here, and I didn't know if you'd fill it out, and you did. And then I'm like, oh shit, I got to figure out one. I'm going to go with Miss Bowen. And this is, in a way, is almost a lifetime achievement award for this character, because we've seen her at least once in every season. And this is the one where she kind of, she was definitely flirting with Roy in season 2, and that led to the whole thing with Keeley. And here she kind of tries to revisit it, and ends up clicking over this other thing. But I always like the character just because no matter what would happen, like, she's kind of proper, but she's also like, she's kind of the cool teacher that is going to tell you, like, oh no, these kids are actually really stupid. Like, I can't stand them, and stuff like that. And, or she was having that whole thing, the talk with Roy about, about his swearing and all that. And they finally leave. And then she's like, yeah. And she looks down and she's like, effing glitter. And, here she kind of does that thing with Roy. And, oh, I hope it didn't cause much of a mess. And Roy's like, you can see again in that Roy Kent way of, like, the wheels turn and then they click into position. He's like, I got to go do something. Like, I'm very decisive and I'm going to go off. And she's like, I don't mind cleaning up a mess. Where'd you go, F witch? Which, beautiful. Just a lovely moment, played very discreetly. With not many to choose from in the field, I'm going to go with Miss Bowen. Leah Bowen, I believe, is Leanne.
Very nice.
Leanne Bowen? Which is the name of one of the producers, which I'd also love the fact that they're just grabbing people who are involved in the show and like, hey, we'll name a character after you.
Mm-hmm.
What, there's a phone book not available? All right, let's see here. We did this for your storyline, for your relationship. Unappreciated episode. Okay, so let's go with our favorite Schadenfreude moment. Sir.
Akufo not getting a Super League.
Yes.
And is apparently unsuccessful at keeping Sam off the Nigerian World Cup team, as we see that happens at the end of the series.
So
and in my headcanon, Sam's Restaurant goes on, baby.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Love that, all of that. Love all of that, and the way that they play the whole restaurant thing, and all of that, and then the broken mirrors, all of that is, and Sam's father showing up, who then, like, he is totally not the photo that they show in season 1.
Yes,
it's like we didn't have any idea who this was going to be. When Ola actually shows up, I love how, Sam is like, he's like, oh, I met Mrs. Welton. He's like, you didn't make it weird. Of course I did. Which I was like, I aspire to be that dad. I aspire to be the dad who is going to make things awkward and weird, but in a wholesome way.
Indeed.
In which case I have a lot of work to do. But anyways, no, great thing there. Crap, where'd I go here? Oh,
yours.
Mine is a tie. So Nate getting a panic attack at his first West Ham press conference, and Rupert getting essentially verbally dog walked by the crowd in the final game. The funny thing here, though, I'm realizing is in season 2, we have Beard saying, or Ted saying, this is a no Schadenfreude zone when Nate is talking about the players going against Jamie. And Beard chiming in as the loyal second in command, 9 Schadenfreude. And who is feeling the most Schadenfreude when Nate leaves West Ham? That'd be Coach Beard. Just another nice little circle that kind of gets completed. What is your least favorite moment from season 3?
The Zava story arc, as we've talked about, and then special mention, all things Jack.
So here,
I'm gonna leave it at that, baby. I'm gonna leave it at that. Those
here's
two.
my vague defense of Jack. And
good God.
Well, not the character specifically, but where it needed to take Keeley.
Okay.
Because Keeley is literally the little engine that could through season 1 and 2. I feel like in order for her to really change, or for it not to be a repeat, like, you need to see her brought low in a way. And even though Roy breaks up with her, fine, and Jamie has Bex in his back pocket in season 1, fine, those are both kind of normal. Here we see her have the double whammy of professional and personal gut punch. And you see her finally get to the point where, like, I ain't fracking got nothing. Like, I have got the Midas shits, as May so helpfully helps her phrase. And then to see her kind of rebound from that, and the way that she kind of balances Roy and Jamie after that, it's like, I feel like that has added a layer to who Keeley is, where she's not just, oh, she's that girl who's always bubbly and positive, and she's a cheerleader for Rebecca, which, I mean, granted, I think those are great things, but it also shows you there's a little more emotional depth to her. And yeah, maybe it was ham-fisted or whatever, but you know what? I feel like it added more to it. It put more on the table than it took off, in my opinion. Not that I'm saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, for me, I feel like that added things more than it took away.
What's your least favorite moment?
The Love Hounds. Oh my God. It's tragically painful to watch.
It is painful to watch, but at the same time, necessary to show
it is
how Nate is missing what he had at Richmond. And I think
flailing.
Oh my gosh, it is phenomenal. It's also, a reminder too of, how Rupert has built this organization, because it isn't, folks that are looking to collaborate and help one another, but rather it is everyone's out for themselves. And I think, and again, that's a little heavy handed to say that, but at the same time, that is kind of how the team has been structured. I mean, you see Nate, verbally berating his players in the first couple episodes in practice.
Oh my gosh, the dummy line.
The dum-dum line.
Oh, I'm sorry, the dum-dum line. Oh, my. Which is somehow even worse.
Come here, dum-dum. Stand here. It's just like, good God almighty.
Try not to join him. I'm like, oh, he's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's...
But you get the sense that everyone in that organization is like that, where it's like you are just a hair's breadth away from being a dum-dum, you know what I mean? And being called into that. Whereas Ted's built an organization that is really around, collaboration and supporting one another, encouragement, empathy, all of that. And you see the fruits of that because Nate then, is longing for essentially that diamond dog sort of, relationship where he's got, other men that he can talk to about, problems he's having or questions that he has and stuff. And he doesn't have it at West Ham. And so I think it's very telling. As painful as it is to watch the Love Hounds, it is also part of what I think helps him see, the light a little bit. So
absolutely. I'm sorry to do this, but I've got to call another timeout.
Damn, what is that, 4-0 at this point?
I know. Again, you're pissing in a bucket, so let's just not.
I am not. I'm sitting here comfortable as can be. I know you can.
12 seconds later.
Yes.
Okay, so here we are now, finally, with our top 3 moments. Sir, what are
quotes for that?
What are your top 3 moments?
What are your why are you doing air quotes like
because
that?
You've got 4 fracking special mentions, so it's a top 7.
Hey, you know what I mean? I mean, the heart wants what it wants.
That's one hell of a defense you got going. You know what I mean? That's the best. I went and took a pee. You had time to think about this. This is the one last category we have, and that's the best you have. You know what I mean? What are you really gun? Like, is that the best you got to come back with?
Basically.
Okay, fine.
I'm going to start with, let's see. I'll start with my special mentions.
Yeah, please do.
From the episode 451, I love the callback to Adriano Celentano's Pensacola Senculo.
Sure. Right. Easy for you to say.
Well, the basically it is the song that plays when they're showing, Zava basically dominating as he has joined Richmond.
And stealing a goal from Jamie Tart, which was
that part I forgot about that. That was hysterical. The fact that he jumps in there at the end and just kind of taps the ball into the goal. It was just, and Jamie's just standing there like,
that was so clearly going to be a goal.
Yeah.
And then culminating with at the end of they end the montage with then segueing musically into another Jesus Christ superstar.
Showing yes,
Zava like takes his shirt off in this, and they show him like this, and they show him
the
from
back
the back
tattoo,
and it's a tattoo of him in the same pose from the back. Like, is oh my gosh. The only thing that would have been better is if there was a tattoo on the back of the tattoo of him on the back of the tattoo, and then it just went Inception wise just into infinity.
I'll go through a couple others. Ted's conversation with his mother, and what I mean by that is the thank you fu conversation, which is hard to watch, but also necessary for the character and the development there, and especially for her to be the motivating factor behind the finale, which is when she reveals that your son needs you. And and we get a little bit deeper into Ted's thinking around trying to keep himself kind of distant, because at some point his son's going to grow up and leave him, and it's heartbreaking as a parent to hear that, but at the same time it's as she says, it's part of what being a parent is, and so I think it's just
sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but mostly you just tie.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
The other special mention is Nate's father's speech, where he talks about what he was, his intentions behind how he was with Nate, but realizing now, seeing what Nate is struggling through, that it has done more damage than good. And it's a key point for the character to kind of hear his father. A big part of the show is forgiveness and apology. And, for his father to confess and to basically apologize for, what he's done, I think was a big, big step for, his character in terms of moving forward and being able to go back to Richmond. And so I very much appreciate that. And then finally, my last special.
Can I just add in one little,
yeah.
one little bit of business at the beginning of that scene, just after, he sneaks up on Nate and Nate's like, jeez.
Yes.
Where he's like, I thought you were at the farmer's market. Oh, I did. But then I told your mother that my acid reflux was acting up. He's like, I didn't know you had acid reflux. I don't, but your mother knows I like to have my alone time.
Yeah.
I think that is such a human thing.
Mm-hmm.
As someone, you're coming up on your 25th anniversary, correct?
Yes.
I'm coming up on my 22nd. But in any long-term relationship, there is kind of that understanding and that sort of thing of like, there are those bits of business, like whether it's a joke or whether it's I know you're saying this to be nice, but you really want to do this thing. And I know that you need to do this thing. So, okay, go ahead. But we're going to dance around in this way. There are those things in every relationship. And whether it's a romantic relationship, a marriage, or even a friendship, like there are those things that like you and me, like we have our heel and face commentator dynamics, like, your Gorilla
Mm-hmm.
Monsoon to my Bobby Heenan.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are those things. And those are the things that made me fall in love with this show.
Mm-hmm.
Those dynamics and those little things that you recognize. And you're like, that's real.
Yeah.
That's like a realsy real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just a beautiful thing. And it's all of 20 seconds, 30 seconds of dialogue, but it is one of those things that, like we talked about in Battlestar Galactica way back in the time when we were in the before times, of how you would hold on a scene for an extra moment or something just to build character. Like those are the things that ground the show, and I so appreciate that. I just wanted to call that out because again, Nate's dad gets this kind of like, he's just the prick, like with a capital P. Mm-hmm. And in this moment, you kind of see a bit of humanity from him in it, but it starts with this dance that he does with his wife, and I love that, I love that. Like, oh, here's this little thing that they have going back and forth, Anyways, I just want to make sure I called that out because it was a beautiful piece of writing.
Very nice. And my last special mention as one of my favorite moments is Rebecca's speech to the other owners, intertwined with Nate's violin performance, which I think is, without that music, I think the speech doesn't have the same kind of gravitas.
No.
But it is, and so it is key to the whole thing. But yeah, just her speech and the way, it's one of those times when art kind of projects the ideal of what you hope people would stand up and defend and be, especially around especially when she, kind of views them all as little boys and she's like, stop doing that.
Oh yeah.
She's like,
stop it. And
I love how much more money do you really need to make? Like that question right there is the one that, I'm sure in reality never gets asked, but it's
honestly,
one of those.
It should be the question is being asked the most in this world right now. Yes. That's why I think that resonates so much.
Yes. Yeah. So,
yeah. No, sorry. I don't.
So I was going to say those are my special mentions, my 4 special mentions, which I know drives Uncle Todd crazy because
I decided to add
top
one
to a top 7.
I added one just in retaliation, just as a single F you.
Vindictiveness.
I'm going to go with Ted's speech at the end of Signs.
Which remind me, what is that speech again?
So it starts, that's when Zava has left, and that's post their loss to Man City.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's basically like, we don't need anybody here, but who's in this room and this and that. And you think that's kind of like the speech. And then all of a sudden the believe sign falls, like the rip that it has been put back up. And then one half of it falls, and like, oh my gosh, it's a sign. And Ted takes the sign down and then rips it in half. It's already ripped in half. Now he rips it in half again. And he's like, you're right. It is a sign, and it's just a sign. And that's when it starts getting serious. That's when the actual speech starts. and he's talking about, I don't want to mess around with any of that. I don't, shame and this and that. And he's like, and again, like this is the second time we hear Ted cuss because he's like, I don't want to mess around with that shit anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you can tell, like, this is a moment where the character is processing this in real time.
Yeah.
He's like, almost like when he's talking about, I can't remember the episode, but it's when he finally decides that he is moving on from his wife, like that he's, and then he kind of backtracks. Like, and if here, of course, I'm talking about Lady Football, and Beer's like, nice cover. But here he starts, he's like, I don't want to deal with that anymore. I don't deal with that shit anymore. And he's like, and when you get to that point, can't nobody rip that up. And he rips it up again. And that's the thing where then the loop closes to Nate, where he's like, you think you ripped it up once. I ripped that sucker up twice. And in a way, it's almost like it's a weird one-upsmanship, but then also taking Nate off the hook in such a beautiful, gracious way,
Yeah.
But I love that because, again, like you see the character processing this in real time and then dealing with his own shit and choosing to then find a way to help elevate others in that moment. Like, I know that I'm not the only person here dealing with this, so let's all figure this out together. And that's the thing where he rips it up again and sets it down. He's like, see you on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the Jamie and the Roy, and so 4 a.m. Damn right. And and the whole team is like, all right, now we're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful moment, because it is that it's getting back to the underdog sort of roots of the show, because they're never truly ever the favorites.
Right.
So what is now that we've gotten to the, look at this. We line up pretty well here. So what is your number 3, which is,
why don't you do number 3 and number 2 since we have different number 1s? Go ahead.
Well, no, but we're both linked up on number 3 and number 2 here, so we can both talk about them.
Mostly because I copied you. So.
Oh, well, that's fine. So my number 3 and your number 3 is Roy's press conference, which I think is, again, beautiful in the fact that it calls back to Roy ditching out of the responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the undercover relationships that I love in this series is Roy and Rebecca, because it's Roy who, acknowledges Rebecca, gives her the little salute when he's going off with Keeley in episode 1. It's Roy who, delivers the little speech about John Wings night about, he's fine. Most people are fine, but why are you settling for fine? You deserve to be, feel someone that makes you feel like you're struck by lightning. And then Rebecca reading him the right, but before that, Rebecca coming in and, are we ever going to win a match again? and everybody looks to the ground, including Roy. And I'm like, I love the fact that the one person who intimidates Roy is Rebecca. Like, Roy is kind of really scared of Rebecca. Which I'm like, that's beautiful. And then to the point that it all just kind of, when she's delivering that speech of like, this whole woe is me thing is just ponderous. He's like, is that all? She's like, yeah, for right now. Like, she softens it for him a little bit. Like, cause she's like,
yeah,
I'm actually rooting for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she doesn't just completely hammer it home. She lets him off the hook a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love how when he ditches out of the press conference, he ends up doing the press conference. He delivers that wonderful speech about the guy that, from Sunderland and all of that. And then the second part of it, because if it was just the first part of that, you're fine. And he's like, and then as for why he did it, and because this whole time he's been sitting, he sits back. And again, like, I love the positioning of this, like, because he pauses so much, and then Brett Goldstein sits back and he delivers this speech, which again is like almost like a Bill Parcells thing. Like, I'm going to now dazzle you with this speech and take your mind off of what actually just happened. But then he leans forward. He's like, as for what happened, it's none of my effing business.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, it shows you like the growth of this character, but then he's like, I know that I can use my intimidation, that like my presence. Now I know how to use this effectively.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss. It's like, yes, at that point, like, I totally now understand why he is the next coach. He is the next manager of AFC Richmond. Like, just from that moment. Yep, that's the guy I want. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful moment. And your thoughts on that?
I love how he does this after, God, what's her name? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
Keely?
Not Keely, owner of the club.
Rebecca.
Thank you. After she dresses him down and, basically just lays into him for, what is very clearly, his issues. And, just the one line where she's just like, this whole thing of you feeling like, oh, is me is just becoming ponderous or something like that. Like she's just so fed up with it. And he's just like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
Which is that thing with Roy. Like if you give him the logical reason, you lay it out, he's like,
yeah,
fair enough. Okay.
Yep. So no, and it was very, very much is an emotional point in the show too, with his whole, first off, it's the way he approaches the press conference, which is very Ted-like. And then the fact that he kind of draws from his own experience and, shares that story and what that, essentially uses that as the impetus to then talk about how with Isaac, it must be something beyond that. And we just need to leave it alone and let it kind of settle out. I just thought was really well done. So,
well, and then he goes on to he Marcus Anabayo, and asks him about Colin. He's like, I think he's a great player and a great man. I think we haven't used him properly.
Yeah.
And Marcus is like, I agree. He's like, well, I'm glad. He's like, I prefer you to the old Trent.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I think he actually refers to him as New Trent.
Yes.
Or something like that. And then they're all asking questions. And the last thing you hear is like, you Goblin King. I'm like, who's Goblin King?
Right.
Oh
I know. Gosh. Yes, exactly. That's like on everyone's mind is who is that exactly? Like why would he call them that?
I think it's the guy who is in the front row. Gosh, I can never remember his name, but he does. He has a fairly large forehead and he always looks clueless. I think that's Goblin King. Either that or it's the guy who was arguing with Beard about Jimmy Page.
Yes.
It's one of those two. Has to be, right?
It has to be.
All right. So I did number 3. You do number 2.
Beard's speech to Nate, which is to me one of the cruxes of this entire series, because this series is about forgiveness and healing and redemption. When Ted shows the video of how Nate, hid for several hours because the team was celebrating and kind of, closing things out from their game. And then he had to hide for another couple hours because the cleaning service came through. And
which is so great. He could have just done like after the team was celebrating, but no, they had to amp it up.
Yep.
Oh my God.
And basically helping Beard see that Nate is deserving of a second chance. I think what's most revealing about that speech is we finally get a deeper view into Coach Beard and his relationship with Ted and why he is with Ted. And it goes in a very dark place, but it does it while also being very funny as well, because, like I love that whole exchange of, why'd you go to prison? Because I stole a loaf of meth. It's like, oh,
but even better is like, it's like Les Miserables. Yes.
Our stories are very similar.
and even starting out, like when Nate goes out there and there's Beard just like arms crossed,
and he's like,
I was like, oh, gee.
Are you here to kill me?
Which is a very legit question with Beard. And then you find out more about Beard. And again, like it's so beautiful because now it's like you understand why Beard is so loyal to Ted, because in a way, like you're like, why would he buy into this level of like, why would you deal with Ted Lasso, which I know is one of your favorites, but at the same time, you're like, this is absolutely stupid. in a real world sense. But he is all in.
Oh yeah.
And you realize why he's all in. But it's not new information. Like this is the Ted that we've seen. It's just now applying it to Beard and going like, oh wow. So Ted's always kind of been like this.
Yeah.
For a very long time.
And I think it's Ted reminding Beard, that he too was probably unworthy of a second chance, but yet he was given one. And so he needs to extend the same grace to Nate, even though he feels passionately about, Nate not getting a second chance. And so, no, I think it's a great scene. And then, it's then punctuated by, Nate saying, well, would you like to headbutt me, to make this official? And so he does the very light headbutt, but then the thing that does it for me is the hug, like at that point, Beard is good with it. He gives him the hug. And then of course you have Jade, listening from the corner with
eating the kebab.
The kebab.
Which is such a Jade thing. I'm like, that's no perfect for that character.
Indeed. Yep. Take a bite of the kebab. So that is, for me at least, Beard's speech to Nate is why it is number 2 in the top 3 favorite moments.
And I love how that is a call, like the headbutt at the end is a callback to when in season 2, Nate's talking to Roy. He's like, don't you even just want to headbutt me? When he kissed Keeley, and Beard's like, I would gladly headbutt you, Nate. And it is such a tender moment where he just does this whole 10 a.m. Monday, and then he gives him that hug. And it's not just a quick, like, little, the normal bro, like, I'm going to pat you on the back 3 times, and then that's a signal that we're done hugging. Like, it is a full-on embrace. And that is one of those things that, like, I'll be honest, like, it makes me think about how I am, and am I that in touch with my emotions and that willing to be forgiving and that willing to just show that caring to other people, but other men, to like it, like that is one of the themes of this show. Is like my wife and I have mentioned, like, the first time we watched through it, we're like, my God, I so want to be a better person. Like that has been the theme, is like, I just really want to be a better person. I want to live up to kind of the level of these characters, even though they're flawed and they screw up and all that, but they come back, they acknowledge what happened, and then they're willing to make amends. Even like you go back to Beard and Higgins. Like, and Higgins had to make amends for what he said about Jane, and at the end, Beard embraces him in much the same way. But of course, there's also that "we will never speak of this again" sort of thing when he whispers to Higgins. It's the same sort of thing, but it is a beautiful moment because it's like, it makes me look back on my life and go like, oh crap, how many times have I ever really gotten to that point of true forgiveness and letting go? Because Beard, then he lets go, and he just, okay, now we're on to this thing. Holy hell. Like, it's amazing. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. What is your number 1 favorite moment for season 2?
After watching it today, I just had to put the last 10 minutes of So Long Farewell with father and son making the room dusty the entire time. If you ever want to make the room dusty, throw a little Cat Stevens on, and it just happens. No, just the entire sequence to see where all the characters kind of end up, and just where Ted ends up, and all of it was just so well done. I've as much as I feel like like I said, the beginning of season 3 for me, not my favorite, but the from the middle to the end was just so well done, and especially the end. I've never, I don't know that I've seen a series, so satisfyingly end, not just itself, but everything with its characters and so forth. I mean, like, everyone gets the ending they deserve, and it's great to see. And again, it's all tied to the theme and the idea of believing in oneself and second chances and forgiveness. And so I just very much enjoyed it, and had to call it out. So
No, yeah, it's a wonderful tie up of that, and even to the leading up to Ted coaching a kids soccer team.
Yeah. Yep. After
And
everything he's been through and just coaching some kids and,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah. And that whole thing where he kind of is like, Henry, like, what do we want to be? Oh, be a goldfish.
Yep.
And it's, again, like, son of a bitch, I watched that. I'm like, damn it, I need to be a better parent. Like, I need to go work on this. I need to read 3 books tonight.
Yep.
I need to go watch some YouTube videos. I need to be better tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, my number one is kind of the running Nate's play for the winning goal in the final game, because it really kind of sums up and brings things full circle. The sacrifice and going back to, like, hey, y'all, this is where we started. This is when things started to change, when Sam was no longer back on defense and Jamie was the decoy, and all of those things, and the selflessness and even to the point of it was a weird thing. When Sam kicks the goal home and the camera shakes, the camera goes askew. Like, he kicked it right at the camera. It reminded me of Battlestar Galactica, like that documentary feel at the beginning when the very first bit of the miniseries, when the station explodes and then the camera gets knocked off axis.
Yep. Yeah.
Like, it put me in that moment of, like, oh my gosh, I'm watching a documentary. I'm not watching a show. Like, this is actually happening. That was gorgeous. And just to kind of, again, see Jamie not be upset about it. He's excited about it. Like, he's all in. And it's like, yes, Jamie has been redeemed. Sam has been shown this. Nate has been redeemed because it was his idea, and he's back with Richmond, and, like, all of the things. Like, there is redemption everywhere you look in that, and even in Rebecca, in just prior to that, of Rupert getting dog walked, like, there's no satisfaction there. Like, there's actual pity in her eyes. Like, she's like, it didn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
You didn't have to do this. Like, God, every which way I've been trying to tell you to not do this. Like, I warned you to not screw around on Bex and all that, and yet you done.
And
couldn't help yourself.
and it's telling based on what we saw from Rebecca in episode 1 of season 1 to that point, right? Like, that's exactly what she wanted, and now it's laid out in front of her, and she doesn't want any part of it.
Yeah, she's like, yeah, it's much better to build than it is to destroy.
Yes,
and she's built something.
Yes.
Yep. Which leads to, because again, holy shit, another arc that we haven't talked about was Rebecca possibly selling the team.
Yep.
But yet she decides to stay.
That's a small arc, though. That's literally just in the finale.
It is, but at the same time, it is a big story point. You know, but it also ties into, again, Ted inviting Baz. I can never remember the third guy, and Paul. Baz, the guy who was in Harry Potter, and Paul, to training, and then by the end of the season, they've got like half of the friggin' training stadium filled with, like, just schmucks who are fans coming to, and, like, he tells Beard, like, it's their team, we're just borrowing it for a while. But Rebecca understanding, like, yes, it's the fans' team, so here's 49% equity to the fans. Like, it's weird. Like, even things that don't directly tie in kind of tie in. So, yeah. Any closing thoughts that you want to add in, or are we basically way over our time here?
Well, I think that goes without saying, but
but feel free to throw
I'll
them in.
just say, even though I have a little issues with how season 3 goes, I do think that, seasons 1 through 3 are in and of themselves a perfect story in and of itself. I think, after watching these, 3 seasons over the past 3 weeks, I feel like, I just think it's a well done series, and just, I don't know that it could have done, could have been done any better. I do think there's elements of season 3 that could have been fine tuned, but really my issues with it are more nitpicks than anything else. And no, just a great series overall that I would highly recommend to anyone. So
very nice.
And I'm very excited for season 4 and what it brings.
And apparently, according to something that I read today, there is a possibility, because the original series was based around a trilogy, three seasons. We might be dealing with another trilogy. We might not be getting one season. Like, this might be a 3-season story that they are working on.
Nice.
Which I guess we're not dealing with immediately after. We're dealing with a time jump situation. So, excuse me, I'm all in on that. So what is your and another thing as a recommendation to our viewers and listeners?
Well, during my trip down to Dallas, Texas, I listened to the Stephanie McMahon podcast featuring CM Punk. And was just again, much like Paul Heyman, Punk is one of those guys that I could listen to, talk probably all the live long day. Really great back and forth and just a great interview overall, but, with that show. And, he tells some really, great stories around, the pipe bomb promo and just, kind of his view of nutrition, his health, and all of that, which I found really interesting. And then he tells some hysterical stories about the marathon story and just just other aspects of his life, which I thought was really funny. The way he proposes to his wife and everything. So overall, highly would recommend it. If you've not listened to Stephanie McMahon's podcast, she does a great job and is quite honestly a great interview overall with whoever she has on the show. With him in particular, I think there's just a great history there. Loved hearing about how he and Triple H just kind of text each other. I thought that was hysterical. Triple H say, "Yeah, what you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm doing this." It's just like like I don't ever envision those two having that kind of conversation, but it seems like
he's watching some old ass friggin' wrestling match.
Well,
and
yes,
go down like this rabbit hole about that particular match.
Yes,
which is like, of course they would, because they're both at core, they're both wrestling geeks.
Yes,
So it's almost like two Lord of the Rings geeks like texting each other. It's like, and now we must go down with a lore.
Yes. Yeah.
The funny part is I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's my end of the thing. So what is yours, sir?
The funny part is I watched a bunch of that in the living room on my TV. And my wife was like, is she crushing on him? And I'm like, well, that would be awfully awkward, because her husband and him had a lot of heat back in the day. But it is weird.
I feel like she is that way with every guest. I don't think it's anything specific with him. So.
Yeah, that is kind of her style. But it was kind of funny. And then the whole marathon story was like, there is a strong sentiment on the internet wrestling community now of calling CM Punk Pepsi Hogan for his made up stories. And I'm sure there's a bunch of embellishment, and you know what? That's kind of wrestling. So deal with it, I guess. But I love the fact that when he's talking about the marathon story, like there is an element of that where I'm like, yeah, I can kind of buy that. I can kind of buy the fact that you forgot that. And then when he gets into the part where he's like, he's like, am I going to crap myself and all that? And then he leaves the porta potty, and the lady's like, is there toilet paper? He's like, yep. And he runs. I'm like, that's horrible. That is actually the most heelish thing you've ever done, ever, in wrestling or without. But yeah, those I will attest. That is a great one. My and another thing goes out to because Ted Lasso has had some great needle drops, whether it be closing music or specific to different points in the series. Queen has been one of them. As far as I can tell, I think they might have the lead. Sex Pistols had 2. I think a couple of others have had 2, but Queen had 3. because we had Tear It Up, we had We Are the Champions, and then in season 3 we had Fat Bottom Girls. So I'm going to recommend Queen's 1982 performance of Fat Bottom Girls, and the live version is great because it features, of course, Freddie kind of playing to the crowd at the beginning, which is great. And
Very
then
Freddie.
What's that?
Very Freddie.
Oh, I mean, yes. I mean, Cheeky doesn't even begin to cover it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But then immediately follow that up, because this is only like a 5.5-minute video. Immediately follow that up with their 1986 concert at Wembley. Yes, the Wembley that Freddie Mercury did play at. This, to me, like just the first 2 songs, they start with One Vision, then immediately go into Tie Your Mother Down. That is how you become a frackin' rock star. And this was the last tour that Freddie Mercury was on. They recorded, I think, a few years later, but that was, it was already at a point when Freddie knew that he had AIDS and was kind of heading downhill. You can tell because there's a lot of times he's not hitting the high notes that he could. And he's getting some vocal help from the rest of the band. Which is in a way a really great example of like people helping each other out. But it is such a tour de force. And I believe over their run at Wembley, they played to 400,000 people, 150,000 in 2 nights, which is astounding when you think about just a sheer mass of humanity. And also realize just how big of a band Queen really was, so definitely check out those 2 links because son of a bitch, Freddie would want you to. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our show for this Free Range Idiocy Friday. Thank you all for listening. You can go to freerangeidiocy.com and find all of our episodes there. Subscribe through whatever podcast service you like. All of our social medias and our YouTube page are there as well. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. You can get both shows each week delivered right onto your stream. No muss, no fuss. It's how we do it. If you have any questions, thoughts, or concerns, send them to tim@freerangeidiocy.com. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for me to turn this over to the least idiotic portion of the show. Granted, that's not a high bar, but he clears it with a plum every single week. But not before I ask the second most important question of all of human history. The first being, what is hip? The second being, what in the high holy frack did we learn this episode, sir?
Nothing we already didn't know.
He's the red!
Ted Lasso, solid series. Check it out. All 3 seasons, top to bottom, phenomenal. Season 4, when it comes out in August, check that out as well. It'll be phenomenal. We've also learned that Uncle Todd has the weaker bladder of the 2 members and is spooked by larvae that may be masked as daughters wrapped in blankets.
Okay.
So,
first and foremost, I just don't feel like getting a UTI for the purposes of this show, okay? You're drinking cranberry juice every other day just to kind of deal with the fact that your bladder is bursting and you're reabsorbing urine into your
bladder is strong like bull.
Pissing into a Home Depot bucket, okay?
I am not.
And second of all, I was looking at the outline instead of looking at myself in the recording. That's why I didn't notice the larva in question.
I was looking at you and noticing some pink larva behind you, which turned
you know
out
what?
to be your daughter wrapped in a blanket.
I would take that as offense, but she was like, yeah, it's fair. Okay.
I love that I was quasi-right on that one. Oh, my gosh. With all that being said, we'll wrap this one up because it is late, and I think we both need to get to bed.
It's actually early where I'm at. But,
Oh, my God. Of course it is early, because you sleep at 3 and get up at 5. With all that being said, be safe.
Just mean-spirited the later it gets.
Yeah.
Be kind to one another. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. The range is closed for now. See ya.
I like a Mussolini.
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking.
I beg your pardon. What did you say?
Damn!
You're such a disappointing pair. I prayed so hard for you. Get out. And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
So say we all. So say we all.
Just a big old meanie pants. That's what you are.
I speak
big
the
old
truth,
meanie pants.
and the truth shall set you free.
Oh my gosh.
Now get the hell out of here!